You selfish human, ungrateful and entitled. I gave you the world, the purest air to breathe, crystal clear rivers to drink from, and forests that dance with life. I cradled you in my arms, nurtured you, and in return, I am assassinated, suffocated by your toxic fumes, choked by your plastics in my waters, and murdered at the hands of the poisons you so thoughtlessly spill in my soils. A pleasant afternoon to you all, panel of adjudicators, ladies and gentlemen, and all you inhabitants of the earth. I stand before you today not as an activist, not as a scientist, and definitely not as Tamika Paji, but as a voice of someone who has been silenced for far too long. I speak for the rivers that have run dry, the forests that have been silenced, and the oceans that have lost their motion. Ladies and gentlemen, I speak for Mother Nature. And I ask you today that amidst all the havoc of pollution and climate change, the question remains, who holds the power? The power to fix and rehabilitate our sweet planet. Could it be an individual like you or me or the person next to you? Or is it a much greater authority we know as the government? Some say it begins with us, that if we recycled, planted more trees, and lived sustainably, we could actually save the planet. And they're not wrong, because Mother Nature whispers her grievances in the rustling leaves, yet we mistake that for background noise. She raises her voice in hurricanes and wildfires, yet we mistake that for natural disasters, as if it were her fault, her doing alone. No, ladies and gentlemen, these are not vicious acts of nature, nor are they natural disasters, but are, in fact, cries for help. And our response? Our responses are our everyday choices that impact the environment. The choice to choose that reusable bag over the plastic carriers. Ladies and gentlemen, saving the planet is not a solo, but rather a duet. And if we don't start singing the song of this planet in harmony, we are the ones that will end up suffering. And I ask you again, ladies and gentlemen, who holds the power? Is it the government, or is it us as individuals? But if we're being honest, our whispers to Mother Nature will never be enough to drown the roars of the industry spewing carbon in our skies. Our reusable bags and eco-friendly sprays cannot compete with the barrels of waste being tossed into the ocean. Our Plant a Tree Day cannot stop the bulldozers from rampaging through our rainforest. So as we waste more time debating on who should take more action, the government or us as individuals, the planet continues to suffer. Ladies and gentlemen, saving the planet is not a one-man job. And instead of debating, we should work together and actually make efforts to change the planet. And with that, I thank you. Shit, man.
Holding a book, my lips drenched in gloss, and silently wondering why no one else in this house knows what boundaries mean. Growing up in an all-male family feels like being dropped in a football team when you're trying to sign up for art club. It's loud, it's messy, it's exhausting. But more than anything, it's complicated. Today, I want to share what that life looks like from the inside. The moments of invisibility, the unexpected lessons, and how I turned the challenge of being the only girl into one of my greatest strengths. Now, don't get me wrong. I love my family, truly. But growing up surrounded by brothers, uncles, a father, and not a single sister or female cousin close to my age, it's a different kind of life. It's rough. It's full of jokes you don't always get, games you're not always invited to play, and a language, not just in words, in behavior, that you constantly have to decode. From a young age, I realized I had to fight for space. Not just physical space, but emotional space too. The space to cry without being told I'm overreacting or too dramatic. The space to thrive in my feminine energy. Feelings in an all-male family can be uncomfortable. When I was hurt, I was told, toughen up. When I was confused, I was told to figure it out. There were moments that made me feel like an outsider in my own home. Like when all the conversations at the dinner table revolved around football, wrestling, cars. When my brothers laughed at me when I asked them to help me tie my hair. When my dad came back from work and showered my brothers with gifts, and all I got was a, Tan, are you not too grown now? Or when I started growing into my own body, and suddenly in my own home, I had to be careful. Careful of how I walked, what I said, how I talked. And no one really talked to me about it. No big sister to explain periods, heartbreaks, how to stand up for myself when boys at school became too touchy. Gosh, I had to figure out how to survive on YouTube. And eventually, I learned to swallow my feelings. I began to think, maybe I am too much. Maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe if I was a boy, I'd fit in better. And then reality hit me. I'm not a boy, I'm a girl. And that doesn't make me weak, it simply makes me unique. I've come to realize that being the only girl is not a challenge, it is a gift. It's taught me to speak louder, not only in volume, but in truth. It's taught me that sensitivity is not a weakness, it's a superpower. It's taught me that just because no one else in the room understands me, it doesn't mean I'm wrong. It means I'm needed. Because what my family doesn't always say, I've come to slowly see. I bring balance. I bring perspective. I bring the reminder that there's grace in empathy and there's power in listening. And now, they're starting to learn from me too. My brothers, they're starting to be more open, more emotionally aware. My father, he's learning to listen without trying to fix everything. And me, I'm learning to forgive the moments they didn't know how to support me because they were never taught how. So to all the girls that feel like an odd one out in whatever situation they come through, please hear me when I say this. You are not a burden. You're a bridge. You can be that one voice in the room that talks about things that no one else wants to say. You are allowed to be loud. You are allowed to be complex. You are allowed to take up space emotionally, physically, and mentally. And maybe one day, your brothers, and maybe even the world, will thank you for it. I mean, who doesn't want a little glam in their life? Thank you.
Make sure that our climate is good, or if it is your responsibility. So we all know about climate change. We've all heard about it. We've all seen it. We've heard stories of people who've seen the worst part of it. Fires killing people, taking homes, destroying wildlife, destroying the future of those who are yet to come. Ladies and gentlemen, I see this as a problem. But you know what concerns me? The fact that our world leaders do not see it as a problem. Donald Trump says climate change is a hoax, a myth, something that is not real. Vladimir Putin believes that it's a good thing because he sees the opportunity for new trade routes. Isn't that concerning? Isn't that scary to think that our world leaders do not care about our futures? That they would rather profit from people suffering? Well, what's the point of profit if we're all dead? What's the point of profit if there is no future for our children? For our children's children? Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but I want my children to experience an environment that is friendly to them, to be able to enjoy the wild animals that I see today. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have to take a stand. It's not just the government's responsibility. It's not just their job to make sure that the climate is safe, that the environment is good. It is everyone's responsibility. We have to take initiative. We have to walk properly. We have to make sure that everything we do does not distract and destroy what God has given us. Ladies and gentlemen, my question to you today is, what are you going to do to ensure that we have a better future? Because my fellow Zimbabweans, guys, truth of the matter is, we are also a part of the problem. We order things online, clothes. We go on Shein and buy clothes. Things shipped across all the way from China, from Europe, or wherever it may be, on planes, on cargo ships, things that pollute the environment. Would you rather destroy your home, or would you destroy your home just so that your friends can say, wow, you look nice today? Is that really the legacy you want to leave behind? You want to be a fashionista? It makes no sense. There is no sense in it. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to vote for people who care about the environment. Because if you have leaders like Trump who think the environment doesn't matter, then what's our future? It's not there. It doesn't exist. Ladies and gentlemen, today, as Novelist Wanda, I ask you to look at the environment around you, to look at the city you live in. Litter all over the place. Are you serious? Are you serious? This is unacceptable, and we have to take steps. We have to make sure that we take the initiative. We need to start driving less. You don't need to drive to your friend's house when your friend lives less than a kilometer away from you. You can walk. You probably need it. You don't need to continuously buy things off the internet when you have grocery stores, when you have your shops that sell those very same items. Ladies and gentlemen, please listen to me today and think about what you are doing. Think about the future of those who are ahead of us. It is very, very, very important that every step that we take, everything that we do, is for the betterment of the future. So ladies and gentlemen, the government needs to make sure that in everything they do, it's not just about profits. We as Zimbabwe, our tiny nation, as much as we put effort into making sure our environment is safe, unfortunately it doesn't make a great difference. We have our National Tree Planting Day. We have funds for green projects. We have all those things. But yet none of them matter if no one takes a step forward. So today, I stand before you, asking you to take the first step. Thank you.
And do the dishes, which I haven't done because I'm lazy. A minute is also the time it took for me to find, record, and post a new TikTok. Social media has rewired my mind faster than any evolutionary shift known to humankind. I'd like to think social media has affected me both mentally and socially. I find myself asking, what would 8-year-old Shalom think? The one that existed before the mindless scrolling, the constant tweeting. Would she be like, yeah, this is all I've ever wanted? Or, this was not on the list I made after watching that one teenage sitcom. Ever since accessing the world of social media, I've gone through what I would like to call the 4 stages of mental shift in teenagehood. Of course there's exposure, there's action, there is self-reflection, and then finally character development. And don't you even dare think, I've never gone through any of these stages, because if you remember very carefully, there was that one phase in 2019 where you didn't skip any "these initials belong together" video and get all giddy because you and your crush's initials were paired together, thinking it was some cosmic sign from the universe to get together. Or you'd spend your hours reading those long paragraphs on how to be an alpha in any room. Okay, they were all equally embarrassing moments. But the ones that really stuck out were turning from the child and class clown who made everybody laugh, I'm talking about everybody, even the teachers, to the nonchalant, 6'5", light-skinned dreadhead. The one that says a few lines, then goes back to this mysterious boy persona. Or the infamous baddie who made us punctuate every word with period. It made it okay to wear short pieces of clothing we called skirts, or really long dresses that just hugged all our assets. These personas made it okay to be either loud or obnoxious, rude or condescending. It made us disregard everyone's feelings as long as ours stayed at the top. Okay, what I'm trying to say is, we've all gone through a shift just because of social media. It's made us walk, talk, and function in a different way. I mean, with the way that we act today, you wouldn't even guess that we're from semi-conservative African families. We don't even know what we've done until we actually take a step back and see it all. We thought high school would be about doing graffiti on the school walls or even singing like the High School Musical trilogy. But now, how we function, how we make decisions is a byproduct of social media. I mean, not even a single thought, sound, or action is original. I mean, guys, don't get me wrong. It's been really, really good, but also really, really bad. I mean, we've had our teenage moment. We've survived the social media apocalypse. But while we were doing that, we've forgotten how to live. We've forgotten how to experience other things outside our phones. I'm trying to urge you today to go beyond your phone. Because if there's one thing social media has taught me is what not to do as a teenager. So why not experience other things that have the same effect? Why not experience other things that can take you to a different dimension just like social media has? Thank you.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and my lovely adjudicator. Today I have been tasked with talking about overcoming adversity. And I have two words that will cover my entire story. Broken bones. Now, for context, I have something I want to confess. I used to dream of being the next big pro football star. No, seriously, if you asked the 8-year-old me what he wanted to do when he grew up, he would reply, professional football. Or ninja, whichever paid more really. But the point is, whenever I touched a football, it was never for fun. It was for my $1 million imaginary contract with Chelsea Football Club, playing in the Premier League, the Champions League, everything you can think of. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how I ended up face down in the dirt with one broken arm and my dreams temporarily dislocated. So all of you guys, sit back, relax, and let me take you on a nice long journey all the way back to grade 3, 8 years of age. Now back then life was simple. You wake up, you go to school, you eat your lunch, and of course you play football like your future depended on it. And on this particular day, it did. Opposing teams were ready. The parents were screaming their children's names. The refs were ready to start the game. The pitch was dusty, the ball slightly flat, and there was that one uncle who kept screaming, "Open your eyes, ref," every 5 minutes. But the hype was off the charts. I was running and sprinting everywhere like I was being chased by debt collectors. And then, eventually, the moment came. I went in for the ball like a superhero. In my head, of course. In reality, I was just a kid who was about to discover physics. I tripped, possibly on my own feet, but we don't really talk about that. And I landed on the ground like a dropped sadza pot. Now me, the tough guy that I am, of course I tried to play it off. "I'm fine, I'm cool, don't worry," I said. "Everything's cool." Spoiler alert, everything was in fact not cool. Turns out I had a broken arm. Yes, 8-year-old me had a broken arm. And to me that was the end of everything. No more football, no more riding, and of course no more two-handed high fives. Oh my gosh. So that was really just the end of everything for me. I was already planning my early retirement. Press conference and all. I invited all the biggest guys, Ronaldo, Messi, all of those guys were coming. But after a brief period of self-pity and a few of the kids at school calling me Robocop, I decided I wasn't just gonna sit by and let this injury bend me completely. I still showed up for every single match, every single training session. I cheered like a maniac. I gave the most dramatic of pep talks, and I dropped the most amazing formations, most of which look like treasure maps. But the point is, I was still involved, I was still committed, and I was still a part of the team. And that really just made me realize something. Overcoming adversity doesn't always mean charging into battle or giving some Hollywood style speech just like I am right now. Sometimes it's just about showing up even with a broken arm, as long as you have a good attitude. It's about laughing at the situation that you're in, not to make light of it, but to stay light in it. So what I want to leave you with is that overcoming adversity doesn't always mean charging into battle, because it comes again and again and again. It really just comes in the most unexpected ways. But it's how we stand up and it's how we respond that really defines who we are. If life throws you down like I was thrown on that football field, you get back up, you laugh if you can, and you continue. Thank you.